with Yaakov and Esav. So there was some challenge. There was challenge that was happening. V'yisroitzu habonim b'kirba, and the children inside of her stomach were challenged. They were running. V'yisroitzu. And we mentioned that they were fighting. And one wanted to get out when they passed by a place of spiritual worship. Another wanted to get out when they passed by a place of idol worship. And we're taught in the Sfarim HaKadoshim that Esav was the one that wanted to get out to go and actually break the idols. That at that point he had a power, he had an ability, thank you so much. He had an ability to take that energy and use it for goodness. It could have been like David HaMelech. But we said yesterday that they were fighting over this world and the world to come, and Esav, he took this world, and Yaakov Avinu took the world to come. Now we ended off yesterday by saying that the end of that battle was really that they were battling about who would have dominion over the months of the year. So it says, "Kashem shenichleku b'shnei olamus." In the same way they were fighting over the two worlds, kach cholku atzman gam yud beis chodshei hashana. They were fighting over the 12 months of the year. So who took what? This is a cosmic battle to who would have the spiritual dominion, who would have a certain energetic control over each of the months. And it says that Yaakov Avinu took Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan. And because these months are very much under the dominion of Yaakov Avinu, these are the months of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Sfir Sa'omer, which is a very, very powerful time of the year. The Rashash says this is the biggest time of the year. Your whole year depends on Shuvah. And of course, Kabbalah Satira. And then Esav took the last months of Tammuz, Av, and Elul. Tammuz, Av, and Elul. And that would be a time, Tammuz, Av, we understand. There'd be a lot of challenge in those months. A lot of difficulty in those months. Tammuz, Av. Horrible national tragedies. I think the final solution was also, it may have been on Tisha B'Av, that it was decreed that there should be the final solution. Very challenging times. Tammuz, Av, and Elul. And what about the months? Those are the months of the summer. What about the months of the winter? So it says that Yaakov Avinu took the first 3 months of the winter. He took Tishrei, Cheshvan, and Kislev. Yaakov Avinu is Tishrei, Cheshvan, and Kislev. And then the last 3 months of the winter, Tevis, Shvat, and Adar went to who? Those went to Esav. And therefore, all the Mo'adim that we have, the big Mo'adim of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shalosh Regalim, those are in the months of Yaakov Avinu. However, Rak bechadoshim shel Yaakov Avinu, ki rak az meir or hatzlacha shel Yisrael. But now we go into something, a deeper part of the storyline. Hine, kasher ro Yaakov shechodesh Elul mutil biyado shel Esav. When Yaakov saw that Esav had taken this power of the month of Elul, so Nisyara, he was afraid. Why was he afraid? Shelo yuchul b'nei Yisrael loshav el Hashem kodim yom adin. He was afraid that the Yidden are not going to be able to do tshuva for Yom Adin. If Esav has his grip until Erev Rosh Hashanah, and then on Rosh Hashanah is now Yom Adin, so Elul's not going to be so pashut. We're not going to be showing up to Rosh Hashanah so uwa, like they say. And therefore what? When Esav has the shlita, when Esav has the memshala, then it's more difficult to do tshuva. Why is that? Because we feel connected to the oilam hazeh energy of Esav. Like we said yesterday, wow, they take Gashmias seriously over here in Manhattan. It's harder to do tshuva when you're shakua. And that's why one of the points that, a famous question, anu ratzim v'heim ratzim, like we say in a siyum, we say also by, when you learn Torah, when you finish learning for the day, anu ratzim v'heim ratzim, chayo l'maba ber shachas. So, I think the Tiferes Yom Tov, Tiferes Yisrael, others, they asked the question, I understand to say anu ratzim, chayo l'maba, anu mashkimim. It's very nice. Say that we're getting up and doing good things. Why do you have to point out the ber shachas? Varm b'telim, like, just focus on the good. Like, why do you have to also mention, oh, by the way, ber shachas, varm b'telim? Just say, like, Torah, olam haba, like, shouldn't that be enough of a pump up? Why do we have to add the corollary, the opposite? So it's Tiferes Yisrael, I believe, on the Mishnah. So he says, you know what could happen? A person could be in the world. He could be going through the world. And, he thinks to himself, like, I'm sitting in a corner, learning Tosfos, I'm a ratzim, I'm running, going through Shas, Be'in, day after day, learning. But this guy over there, he drives like a fancy car. I'm wearing the same tie that I had for my wedding, sitting, shtagging in Tosfos. And this guy's out there, mamish, making moves. There could be a riffian in your belief in how great what you're doing is. And therefore you have to point out the Devarim B'Teilim, you have to point out the Ber Shachas. Because it's easy when there's a shlit of Esav to get caught in that and not do tshuva. So now back to Yaakov and Esav inside the womb. So Yaakov knows that Esav has Elul and he's Misyare. Ve'ech yagiu l'Rosh Hashanah b'li tshuva hachana karoi. How can we get to Rosh Hashanah without doing proper tshuva? V'lechein asa ma'isa. So beautiful. So what did he do? He said, I got to do a ma'isa. V'chotef memenu b'koyach hazroya es chodesh Elul. It says that he grabbed onto his heel and he grabbed the last end, the end of the year, the last month, he grabbed Elul. That was the Yoda Eichezes Ba'akev Esav. Shachotev es chodesh Elul shu chodesh ha'achron shel Esav. He was able to take the end back. He was able to wrestle back. Because what does Yaakov stand for? Yaakov stands for goodness, Kedusha. Yaakov stands for looking through the veneer of this world and looking to a world of Yom Shkul Orach, looking to a world of Shabbos Kodesh, Nachlas the Yaakov Bli Meitzarim, looking to a world of Kedusha, of Yaakov Avinu, of the Panim of Yaakov Avinu, Pnei Aviv. And Yaakov Avinu is looking beyond, and he says that for Rosh Hashanah, we need to have Elul. We need an Adnila Doidi V'Doidi Li. And if Esav has Elul, it's going to be very hard to bring Kedusha into this world, because the person's not going to get ready for Rosh Hashanah, and therefore he's going to be stuck in the externals of what he thinks is important. He's going to go to the king. He's going to tell the king, I need all these things that are only from the world of Olam Hazeh. And therefore, after he did this, v'tzir foylach halakoi, kedei shegam b'zeh achodesh tor boy hatzlachas Yisrael, v'zeh moyel Yisrael sheyochla b'nei kalasas tshuva. And because of that, once Yaakov chapped this month, so now it became a month that wasn't just a month of Yaakov, it was a month that was transformed from Esav to Yaakov. It's a month that you can go from being an Esav to a Yaakov.
Elul, you're saying?
Elul. And it's interesting, what is the astrological sign? Yes, that's right.
Oh.
Is the Besula, is the Virgin. Because in the month of Elul, the Virgo, in the month of Elul, you could go back to being completely pure once again. You could return yourself to absolute purity. And it's not the purity of always being pure. It's the purity if a person did things that were not becoming of them, and they looked at things they shouldn't have. And they checked out the BLT sandwich, and they thought that I'm sure that it's par of B. And it's not. And in the months of Saif, these are, sorry. And maybe the Ben HaMechaver, and whatever it was. But in Elul, it's a month where you could turn an Esav into a Yaakov Avinu. It's a month of such transformation. Amnam, however, once he grabbed Elul and he transformed Elul from the darkness into the light, Ba'ayin yofa gam chelik godel mechodesh av shelefanav. He was able, while he was getting Elul, he was able to grab some of Av also. He was trying to get everything. He wanted the whole year to be filled with Kiddusha, with purity and goodness. Drain the swamp. Ba'oifen asher Tisha B'Av mizman hamincha ve'elech. He was able to get all the way to Tisha B'Av from Mincha time. He got up to Mincha of Tisha B'Av. That's how much he grabbed. And that's why from Mincha of Tisha B'Av, you put on your talis and tefillin, you get up off the floor, and the Hisnoitzitus of Mashiach is coming. Because the months of us acquiring from the hands of the swamp, returning, bringing back the sparks. So that was not just a regular power of holiness. That's a power of holiness of transformation. And that's a power of holiness that's so filled with the light of Mashiach, of transforming the ace of energy. And that's why something happens by Mincha, and it says that Mashiach is born in those moments. At that second, there's a birth of Mashiach. That Yaakov was able to grab all the way to that point that now begins the transformation. Now all of a sudden there's an illumination. So this is the end of Esav's time. This is the final moments now that we're going through Esav during these final days as we're getting towards Tisha B'Av. Asher behem zoyrachas me'ir hatzlachasen shel Yisrael b'nekel l'shuva l'Hashem v'yirachameu ki yarbe l'sloyach. So we should be zoycha mamish to know. We should be zoycha that these 9 days have such a light to them, because these are the 9 days that Yaakov didn't yet get, but he left it to you and I. He left it to you and I that we could do the transformation, but it's very hard. From Mincha of Tisha B'Av, there's already like a weight that goes off, and you feel it. You feel when you start getting up, Keli Tzion, you feel, you're starting to feel like it's happening. Mashiach's coming. Should see by the Tzimayr, by the end of Tisha B'Av, like it's Mashiach mamish. There's a transition from just bawling, endless crying, to all of a sudden then getting up, and you feel like rising from the ashes. It's very powerful. But we're still now, these final moments of the ashes. And we should be zoicha, because this Shabbos is Shabbos Chazon. And Shabbos Chazon means the Shabbos that I see things. I could already see, even in the darkness, that there's a Shabbos. It's an amazing thing, a Shabbos in the 9 days. On Erev Tisha B'Av, a Shabbos.
It's the holy day of the year.
Mamish. This is it. This is the day that you could see. It says it's the day that you could see what you'll look like when the Beis HaMikdash is built. That's the chazon, that's the chizyon that you can have. So in a certain way, in the 9 days, Yaakov Avinu didn't grab this time yet, and he left it for you and I to transform this time. But the transformation is still through the pain. It's through a pain. But that pain, being able to pierce something and awaken within me something that gives me a vision. And my Rabbi would always say something interesting. He said, sometimes you cry, and anybody who wears glasses maybe knows what I'm talking about. So if you take off your glasses, you don't see so well. But sometimes if you cry up a little bit, if you're in the water, you have a moment where like the water goes in your eye, and you almost see better. You get like this little moment of like, how could that be? I'm not wearing my glasses, but somehow some tears like giving me more vision. This is the chizyon. This is that the tears are washing away the blurry vision. So we should be zoicha to have an absolute vision. Chazon Yeshayahu, the chizyon, to see v'sechezena einena b'shuvacha l'tzion b'rachamim. B'zrat Hashem will come home, and we'll see, and all the world will know. Ba'yoyim mahu Hashem echadu shmei echadu. We should be zoicha to Mashiach tzidkenu b'mhera v'yameinu amen ve'amen. Amen. Have a wonderful day. Kol tuv, my friends. Kol tuv.